Wow, makes you want to take up another offering, doesn't it? Listen, this is the last, it's not the Last Supper, but it's the last service before we take a month off, the month of July, our sabbatical month, and we take it off. There'll still be people working around here some, but our staff takes its vacations during that time, and we don't do any services or conferences or things like that it's a time to go and seek the Lord. And I was asked to do a message, to redo one. I don't know, but it's a part of understanding why we do the Sabbath. What does that mean to us? And this is more than just taking a little break from some meetings for us. This may be one of the fundamental issues that determines really how successful we are as human beings entering the Lord's Sabbath. It's not just about taking a day or a month or anything else. It's much, much bigger than that. And we want to talk about it. Now, I am going to finish the series that I began on the basic Christian doctrines. We will come back to that. We've got a lot of ground to cover in the, beginning in August, September, through that time. I've scheduled myself to do almost all of the meetings through the end of the year. And but there's some major changes coming that you're going to see, and I think major advances coming that we're going to have enter into this fall. One of the things I believe it's, our next project to finish out here is that little tram stop over there. But guess what? That's going to be a place where you can get on the train to heaven. All right? Now, they're working on some projects around that little peninsula out there. They're going to do a real nice walkway and a couple of bridges over to here. But I think that tram stop, is going to be a place of 24-hour worship and intercession. And it's where you can go when you need to go to heaven and, visit. And, of course, we're supposed to be living there. But there are a lot of things. We're going to, obviously, a whole new level of, missions and the training, the schools. But Don Potter and I were riding our motorcycles yesterday, and of course I was riding my biblical motorcycle, the Harley Davidson, the only biblical motorcycle, David's son of David, and all other motorcycles are training bikes. But anyway, we're up there, and Don just downloaded on me about this tram stop. By the way, Don Potter's jumping back in the fray, coming this fall. And he's one of those guys. I remember when we first met Don, we were doing a conference over in Nashville, and it was Amy Grant, and Michael W. Smith, and John G. Elliott were leading our worship for that conference. And Don Potter comes up and says, I want to record your wife. I think I'm supposed to record Julie. And I said, well, great, because, the place was full of musicians and entertainers and all. And I went over to Ricky Skaggs. I said, who's this guy, Don? Who is this guy? And Ricky said, I'll tell you who. He said, almost no hit ever comes out of Nashville unless Don has something to do with it. And Don has been a part of writing, playing on, or himself had 98 or 99 number one hits, going all the way back when Don was a lead singer and guitarist for Chuck Mangione, if you remember Chuck, the jazz, and all the others. They came to Don to talk about who is this fat white boy named Garth Brooks. That's literally what they called him, and Don listened to his music, and he said, I'll tell you who he is. He's going to change the face of music. He's had a part not just with the Judds and Winona, but with Faith Hill. So many came out that have, Don has had that impartation into him. He's one of the best. I think he's a cross between, the Yoda and that mad scientist from Back to the Future. But in music, I mean, but to me this represents something. Our music is going to a whole new level. When Don got involved back in the 90s, the music that came out of here went all over the world in a major way. It was a huge thrust, and I think you feel everything's building up to that again, but it's not just the music. That's just part. This is harvest time, and but that is a part, and Don is going to come in and oversee a whole school of worship here and worshiping arts and things like that. I think the impartation is tremendous. I'm so excited about Don getting back in the fight. Many others too are coming to get in the fight, and but we've got a lot of warriors around here. That's all they like to do is fight. As long as there's a soul in darkness, there's still a battle until everyone is free. But I want to talk now about entering God's rest, because this is one of the most powerful weapons we have. Okay? Now, man was created at the end of the sixth day. If you think about that, man is created, and his first waking moments are God's Sabbath day. Can you imagine that? Just coming to life. I mean, it's one thing to just wake up. If you've been in one of those deep places where you didn't know where you were or whatever when you wake up and hardly knew who you were, think about Adam waking up, coming to life. There's God. And then God says, "Great, Adam, I'm going to take a break now." He's going, "Wait a minute, I've got some questions. Where are you going?" But for man to have fellowship with God from the very beginning, he had to enter God's rest. And I think we also do, there's something profound and basic about entering the rest of God, entering His rest, His Sabbath rest, that we have in Him that is fundamental to our relationship to Him, to really having fellowship with Him. But it's not about just laying around and not doing anything. Now, we know in the Old Testament it was a requirement, it was the law. We see in Exodus 31 where He says, "But as for you, speak to the sons of Israel, saying, you shall surely observe my Sabbaths, for this is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord, that sanctifies you." In verse 16,